Alright everyone, last night it was really funny, and I promised this would be the first video of the new year, even though technically this should be the last one of the day, because it's actually the most substantial and significant. Taylor Lorenz, one of the people at the Daily Beast, was like, oh, every time some YouTuber, some e-celeb basically, comes forth, and like I approach them, and I'm like, hey, I want to do a piece and include, quotes from you, or, have a chat or whatever. They want money in order to do that. Oh, ha ha ha, that's like so cute because, that's just YouTube and stuff, and it's meaningless, and who cares? You're telling me that you wouldn't perhaps do that or be willing to do that for people whose audience dwarfs yours? Because I assure you that for a lot of them that's actually the case. Like, what if it were like Paul Joseph Watson? He's not just a YouTuber, he's part of InfoWars. His salary is already probably pretty high anyway, so maybe it would be beyond your budget, because I know that the Daily Beast, like all of these other outlets, has problems. But if somebody from the Lamestream media came forth, I mean, you think that you're doing some YouTuber a favor, I guess. Someone who's already got a large audience, a lot of exposure, and whose material is literally worldwide. You're acting like you're doing them a favor by basically putting a few quotes from them in an article. No, it's really the burden is on you, because you need their permission in order to actually do that in some circumstances. Like if you want them to give you a statement, they could just say, well, basically screw yourself. They're doing you a favor by appearing in your publication. I would note that half the time, and you have to be aware of this if you're a content creator, half the time if someone is doing that, they're going to spin what you say and defame you anyway. Like, it's probably going to be loaded. Like, we've seen this before. Someone, they set up to, like, do an interview, and they're like, well, it'll be fair. Maybe there's some hard-hitting stuff, but ultimately I'll be able to get a word in edgewise. And then they don't actually get the capability of doing that. It's basically, well, you're a Nazi, or, you're a Russian agent, or, you're talentless because you're just a YouTuber. The old guard media still looks down its nose at us, despite the fact that we're actually above them. When it comes to circulation, YouTube is far larger than all media firms combined. As far as time usage, the entire cable industry combined is smaller than just YouTube, one single website. That's just, by the way, we're just talking about YouTube. There are people that have their podcasts, they have their blogs, they have independent websites with various types of multimedia content. Books, the printing industry, as far as like the political materials that are written by the alt media, or you would think of gaming. In the gaming world, who has more at this point leverage? A bunch of gamers on YouTube, or maybe some old hack who's 50 years old and living in their basement still with their comic collection. No offense to anyone who lives that sort of lifestyle. Okay, maybe you got some good shit there. But who works for like a so-called legitimate publication. Well, I'm an official game reviewer, so my opinion matters. But PewDiePie, who's got like, 50 plus million fans, his opinion, who cares about his opinion? Oh, he hates the game, I thought it was great. And probably PewDiePie is going to be close to the truth on that. And the same would be true with a lot of you. Movie review is the same thing. All of the stuff that the old guard media does, the reviews, the opinion pieces, the primary reporting in many cases, it gets scooped on. It's so vestigial. There's no reason why in half these cases the first person on a scene to get footage isn't some random person with a smartphone. There's a shooting, probably someone with a smartphone's getting footage 5 minutes before the news van arrives. A good 10 minutes before the helicopter's getting footage. So they scoop the Lamestream news, and the Daily Beast, by the way, it's not exactly a CNN when you really think about it. So I thought that Lauren's comments were hilarious, and this is exactly the way the establishment looks at people like us. It says, well, ultimately it doesn't matter, this YouTuber is inconsequential. They have like 500,000 fans, but, it means nothing. Now, if it were part of an establishment industry, if they had a brick and mortar store, and 500,000 people endorsed them, or 500,000 people showed up to buy their products, it would be anarchy. They would say, well, it's like, it must be the biggest thing ever. The idea of it you couldn't even comprehend maybe, or if someone had they have brick and mortar presence. Some news studio, again, brick and mortar, regular cameras, got the journos, got the pundits and stuff, and they have a circulation of 500,000 people, that's not bad. 500,000 newspapers sold. 500,000 people listening to your radio slot. they would consider that to be pretty damn decent. But because it's online, because it's not part of their normal academic and corporate complex, they just shy away from giving any shits about it. But no, if some journo, especially if it were someone from a top-tier legacy media outlet, from a multi-billion-dollar sort of parent company thing, they said, well, I want to talk to you or something, I probably wouldn't presume that they're going to be willing to pay me anything for that. But if some B-tier group, like the Daily Beast or something similar to it, came forward and said, hey, I want to use your quotes, and I said, well, yeah, give me $100, you can have my quotes for your shitty article, and they're like laughing at me, I'd say, well, fuck you, you're the one that needs my quotes, here's a quote for you, go suck it, basically. It would be funny, and it would be totally accurate because, the power level of some random YouTubers is higher at this point than that. Maybe a couple of years ago there would have been, if this tweet had been made, it would have made more sense. It'd be like, most of these people, like, my audience was like, what, like 25, 30,000 people. Considerably smaller. Like, I think Molyneux was, back then, he was like 200,000 and stuff. And so things were smaller. The alt media before the last election, especially in the US sense, was considerably smaller than it is now. And cable and newsprint and some of these older web-based sites, like a Gawker or a Daily Beast, they were larger than they are now in many cases. Certainly on cable, it was far more powerful even 2 or 3 years ago. So that case could be made. They could say, well, this YouTube thing, at that point they were admitting it wasn't just a fad because they were like live streaming presidential debates already and stuff. But for the most part, the idea of being, in dedicated sense, a YouTuber as a profession, or analyzing politics and expecting to be taken seriously on YouTube or online in general, unless you were Matt Drudge or something, was laughable to them. They laughed at it. They're not laughing anymore because they've realized that the newer generations predominantly do not trust anything they see on cable, which, by the way, is totally good. That's a good thing. It's good they don't trust cable. Newsprint, nobody buys newspapers. Magazines, their subscription. But cancel all your subscription to all these things. If you want like the crappy corporate stuff, just watch, get Netflix. At least then there's some interesting content there. Otherwise, go online. You can make content while you absorb others' content. Isn't that such a great novel idea? You can't really do that on TV. You can write a letter to the editor in your newspaper, but you can't just start printing up your own newspapers and expect, hey, I'll be able to make ends meet doing this, or there will be enough interest to at least like break even. You're going to break your back, you're going to end up plowing money into it, and you're probably going to fail. That's why there's a consolidation over time of their services. Cable, yeah, you can do the public access thing, but what's the point? Like 10 people will be watching you. But if you start a YouTube channel, I've seen stuff that's totally crappy on YouTube. It's talentless swill and they've got thousands of subscribers. That's a pretty good testament to the fact sometimes people just want to watch weird stuff. You don't even have to be like really, really talented. It's not like on the news where you have to have the hair plug and cap teeth and the makeup and, the suit and shit. No, you can sit there in your bedroom with a webcam dressed like this and it's totally fine. Keeping up appearances is dumb. The Daily Beast, I guess, their writer here, doesn't quite understand the fundamental shift in power between different forces within the media. And trust me, somebody on YouTube who is talking about current events, analyzing politics, that is an activity of the press. Somebody who self-publishes books of their opinion or whatever else, that is an activity of the press. The freedom of the press, the free press of the United States goes well beyond, hey, you've got a journalism degree and work for a 3-letter agency called CNN or something. That is not the entire press. That's just part of the press. That's the corporate, the old guard style of the press. I think it was NNN said back in the late 90s that basically what's happening now had happened. They just got their timeline a little bit long. It took an extra like 5 years for the alt media forces really to begin gaining enough steam to challenge the old guard. And part of that, honestly, is because the lamestream media, the biggest effect of all is that they're now held accountable by the collective opinions of people online that can voice their opinions, on their own time, independently. That's really what's killing newsprint and cable and elements of radio, I think, as well. The fact that they can now be challenged by people who can garner an audience. It isn't so much direct competition for the audience and we're just more novel and more independent. That's part of it, certainly. But that's almost secondary. That's what comes next after the credibility of the old guard media is basically dismantled, because they have no credibility. Every other week, CNN lies, flat out to its audience. So, why would you bother entrusting your brain to them to put so-called knowledge into it when everything that they teach you is going to be wrong for the most part? The lamestream media as well in other countries is about the same. You think that the so-called press over in like Turkey or the UK is any more fair than it is here in the US? No, it's bought and sold. It's the same thing. Sometimes it's even more state co-opted. We have a state co-opted media here. It's not really a free press when you're talking about cable. It's really not, because all the politicians, they'll give differential treatment to one group over another. And it's not really a free market of information. It's how they control them. They take kickbacks from the parent companies. The parent companies of all of these media outlets donate to the politicians. No shit, those politicians are going to generally prefer them over a bunch of vloggers, even if those vloggers have like, what, millions of fans apiece and collectively half the population of the US basically listening to them. These people, it's surprising how they don't get this. Like, from a marketing standpoint, you'd think that they would bring a couple people in and say, yeah, your pundits should just start doing YouTube stuff. You should just stream everything on there and cut off your cable presence entirely. Why would you want a cable presence? And if you want, like, the really sanitized propaganda news anyway, yeah, it's absolutely not going to be banned on any of these sites. You don't have to worry about being attacked. Google will protect you. Facebook will protect you. It's sanitized. It's sub-G rated. It's actually mind-numbing. So you'd be just fine. That's my advice to them. Scrap your newspapers, your TV shows, because, really, nobody cares about them anymore. As for the Daily Beast, if you come to somebody who has enormous numbers of fans, who collectively millions and millions of people are watching their material over relatively short periods of time, that you better treat them with respect. If you look down your nose at them, well, maybe they'll just say, well, tables have turned now. I can look down my nose at you. When their subscriber base is 10 million people years later, you'll be saying, whoops, I probably shouldn't have insulted them, because now I would pay them to get the juicy story, the nice exclusive interview, but now I can't, because that well was poisoned years ago. So that's about all. Peace out.